Good evening. Before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, we have individuals attending remotely as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is participating knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is the current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. I'm going to call this meeting in order, and I'll ask for a roll call.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. You're hereby notified that I have called a special session of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, to be conducted virtually on Thursday, February 10th, 2022 at 5 p.m. regarding the Building a Stronger Economy Grant. Roll call. Davis.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Burrough.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Kane. Markley.
Here.
Stites.
Here.
Kane. Do you see him there? Okay, we see Commissioner Kane is present. Garner.
Here. Thank you. Tonight, a presentation will be given regarding the base Building a Stronger Economy Grant. I'll turn it over to Interim County Administrator, Ms. Cheryl Harrison Lee, for comment and introducing the staff for this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of the commission. We have several grant opportunities, one of which is based, as the mayor mentioned. Staff's working to develop projects to present and get your feedback on tonight so that over the course of the next couple of weeks, we can prepare grant applications for this new funding opportunity. And with that, I'll turn it over to our finance director to start the presentation.
Good evening. This is Kathleen Von Atchen, and I'd like to thank you all for taking the time for this special session to talk about this very important grant that will provide a lot of needed improvements if we're awarded to the county. And the presentation will be made by our consultant from iParametrics, Erica Hubka, but we also have with us a number of staff members from the Public Works Department, the Economic Development Department, and several other departments who are available to answer any questions about the projects that are being proposed. And so we're going to get through the presentation and then and Catherine Carter from Economic Development. We're going to get through the presentation and then, have it open for questions at the end. All right. Take it away, Erica.
Thank you, Kathleen. I am Erica Hubka. I'm with iParametrics, and we have the great distinction of being able to work with the UG on developing the base grant and making sure that we are putting our best efforts forward to hopefully secure as much of this funding as possible. As was mentioned previously, the state of Kansas has issued $100 million available for funding for the base program. It has been approved from the state fiscal recovery funds, which is a part of the ARPA monies. The goal of the base grant, as said through the name, is economic development in the state of Kansas. Now, the goal with the majority of the funding that the state is looking towards is to improve infrastructure that will result in economic growth. However, to put forward any application, there's a minimum of a 25% match for any application. Now, this match is allowed to come from local funds, tax revenues, federal programs that you can use in match, including community development block grants, and among others that we are looking at as we determine which programs to move forward with. In addition to that, we also want to make sure that any of the programs that we're looking at can begin work within 6 months. All of the projects that the state will look to approve need to be started within 6 months and need to be completed within 2 years of the award. And this is a basic flow diagram of how they're hoping this program will work. With the applications due on the 28th of this month, they hope to award at the end of March. And then within 6 months, so at the end of September, these programs need to be started. And then within 2 years need to be completed. Now, throughout this process, there are also several reporting opportunities. So the state is going to be very present and contributing to the oversight of each of these programs. Some of the eligible uses that the state has provided to us are putting in commercial driveway aprons, business park signage, infrastructure to support business growth, and other infrastructure to include water, wastewater, and stormwater, and other utilities that will help to further economic growth within our areas. Some of the application requirements include a project description and scope to include a descriptive budget and narrative, and any of the matching funds need to have appropriate documentation as well. In addition, we need a series of letters of support from those that we will be working in partnership with on these projects, as well as a detailed financial risk assessment. Now, for the projects that this base grant program team has identified would be our most attractive projects to put forward. Obviously, the unified government has many projects that are in the works that would be beneficial for this program. However, we need to make sure that we are matching up the guidance of the grant with the project that would be the most effective to apply for. Of those, the 3 that were chosen to move forward on behalf of Kansas City, Kansas are Armourdale, the KCK Riverfront and Park Development, and the State and Village West Parkway interchange. And these specific areas here are in blue to kind of give a visual representation of what part of the city they are in reference to. The first project we have is the Armourdale project. Unfortunately, this area is a very flat area that has a lot of impermeable material upstream. So whenever there are heavy rains or whenever the Kansas River is elevated, this area floods. Now, in 2018, a survey was done and it resulted in several $1 million worth, $16.3 million of revenue loss. And the goal with the base grant for this would be to dovetail with the Kansas Levee project and the work that they're doing to bolster the levee and improve the water pump stations there. And what we would be doing is increasing the stormwater sewer to support any of the excess runoff that currently inundates this area. For the KCK Riverfront development, this also is in partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers Casey Levee's project. What we are hoping to do is fund some unfunded portions of this to include adding parking, adding a trailhead so that people have access to the area, doing some land work to make sure that there's access to the water and that we are able to build the appropriate riverfront park that we're hoping to build there. In addition, it will provide access for water mains and sewer and sanitary systems from BPU, not only to the western side of the riverfront project, but also to the eastern side, which currently doesn't exist currently. And finally, the State and Village West Parkway project. What we are hoping to do is improve traffic flow, both vehicular and pedestrian. We hope to tie it into the trail system that we are currently building and create an opportunity for further growth in the Legends area and make it more accessible for those that are there for events such as a Monarchs game or a sporting game, to be able to walk across and have dinner and to shop the Legends at the same time. So we're just trying to improve the flow through that area. And this is also done in conjunction with the State and 435 project that KDOT is completing. Now, in total for all of these projects, we are looking at $20 million for the Armourdale project, of which we would need a $5 million match. However, because of the work that the Army Corps of Engineers is doing and monies that the UG has already put towards this grant, we have far exceeded the necessary match for that. For the KC Riverfront, we need about $15 million, which would require a $3.75 million match. And on this project as well, with the private investment and the UG investment, we are in excess of what the match minimum is. However, for the State and Village West Parkway, we are looking at a $25 million need, which would require a $6.25 million match. And unfortunately, we do not have adequate funds for that at this time. And so Kathleen will help us walk through our options there as we, if this project is selected. And that is what we have for our presentation today. Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. So do I understand correctly? The state has $100 million. And we're going to ask for 60 million of it.
We
And
are putting, oh, sorry.
well, so because we can submit up to 3, correct?
Yes.
And will we submit all 3? I guess, are you looking, you must be looking for commission direction. I need more information on what is $25 million at State and Village West Parkway. I don't know how that could be $25 million. So I would need help understanding that, but I'm struggling with the fact that we think we're going to ask for 60 million of their 100.
So that's correct. So the 3 projects that we have for your discussion tonight are these 3. They total 60 million. The entire statewide allocation is 100 million. So based on your direction tonight, we can either decide to, turn around and get staff ready to submit for all 3 projects, or 2 or 1, depending on your preference and based on your discussion tonight. And so if you'd like to move into questions on the State and Village West Parkway project, I'm going to have to rely on Public Works staff, which I think are on the call to take these questions. Who would like to take it?
Yeah, Kathleen, this is Sarah Schaefer. Troy is not available this evening, so I'll go ahead and take the question. So State and Village West Parkway is an entire intersection redevelopment. So it isn't simply some trails and things like that, but it is an entire intersection redevelopment that would further promote and assist our vehicles and our pedestrians to navigate through the revisions that KDOT is anticipating making to the Village West and 435 interchange there. So they're looking at an entirely different interchange configuration, and we would want to continue that configuration down to make it easier on our heavy vehicles, our pedestrians, and our standard personal vehicles as well.
I do. This is Commissioner Bynum, and that makes a lot more sense, but 25 million, did we not completely reconfigure the Turner diagonal for 14 million? It's just mind-boggling to think that redoing that interchange, again, I'm certainly no engineer, but that seems extraordinary.
Great point, Commissioner Bynum. Excellent point, Commissioner Bynum. So Turner Diagonal is a unique situation where we did have the ability to do a unique approach to it. We may be able to take that same approach, which was design build, given the timeline. But we are using our most recent and available engineering estimates that we have also shared with KDOT in years past. So that is, at this time, the estimates that we have available, which affords us to request the 25 million.
And I apologize, this is Erica Hupka with iParametrics again. We are also working on a lot of estimated values at this point because this grant was just released and we want to make sure to capitalize on all the time to develop the applications that we can. We did come up with some rough estimates of what we were thinking the greatest value that we might need for these projects would be. So there is a possibility as we continue to develop these, that these numbers will be adjusted down.
It's Commissioner Bynum. Is there a possibility, are we aware of a possibility that we would be granted a dollar amount less than a request? And
Yes,
then have
this
to
is-
make decisions about what we do then?
Yes, this is Erica Hupka with iParametrics again. The state may choose to fund less than the requested amount for any of the grants that they award. And so our teams need to be prepared to flex and make some difficult decisions on how to pare down projects potentially to make sure that they fit within the granted budget. Commissioner McKiernan?
Thank you so much. Could you back up to the Armourdale slide, please? And now I'm going to ask a question about the table I just had you navigate away from. But as I read the line on this one, we effectively are already $10 million over the amount that would need to be provided as a match. So we more than qualify for this ask, correct?
Correct.
And can somebody give me, and maybe Sarah can, just a little bit more idea about the enhancements that would be made here? And it appears that they are all or mostly east of 7th Street, well, along 7th Street and to the east. Can you give me just a little bit more idea about what would be done here?
Yes, Commissioner McKiernan. So this is a storm system upgrade. It's between 7th and Ruby. So you are correct in its location, and we would be looking at capacity building and green infrastructure. So ultimately, it's for the capacity, for the quality, and green infrastructure to accommodate our storm system.
Okay, so it looks like the majority of it goes east along Shawnee until it finally hits the levee and then would drain out. Very interesting. I certainly approve it. Given the fact that we've exceeded the match by 10 million, I think it's a great application. It should be the first step of many in this area. But it would be certainly a good start in an area that is heavily traveled and floods with a hint of rain. You're right. It fills up from the inside out, not from the outside in most areas. Can you go then to the I'm sorry, back up one. Is this work, could this work be considered consistent with the Armourdale master plan?
Yes, this work is consistent with the Armourdale master plan. This is Erica Hupka again.
Perfect. Thank you. Then if you could go forward one more to the one more, please. There, that one. So we're about $5 million over the match requirement for this particular ask, if I read that table correctly. Is that right?
Yes, you're correct.
And the projects, the money that we would get would be directed to both the east and the west sides of the river. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Since in this picture, west is roughly up, that would be west on the top and east on the bottom, roughly speaking. Remind me, well, and certainly I would assume this is consistent with the Armourdale master plan, correct?
Yes, this is also consistent with that master plan.
And remind me what sorts of projects or what sort of work would be done with this ask from the state.
Is Sarah White present?
Yes, I'm here. I can talk on this. Sarah White with Public Works Engineering, and I'm happy to talk about this project. So as you guys can see here, this is kind of our big vision for the KCK riverfront and development. And we have, been working on this for the past couple of years. And, the total cost well exceeded our budget. So we have decided, we're going to go after grants for the rest of it. So what this would include would be more of the riverfront amenities, which would be the walkways down to the water, the amphitheater, the Stramp, just to get people down to the Kansas River. This would also include the enhancement of the trailhead there on the west side, which is up on the screen. And that connects right into Armourdale and fits right into the master plan of having that area be, a trailhead park and a parking lot for the bridge and, just to really enhance that. One of the other things that this grant is going to include is the utility connections to both sides of this riverfront development. Currently, there is not a BPU water main on the eastern side, and there is a lot of development slated. There's a project going in right now through our planning commission with the hopes of phase 3, 4, and 5 coming soon after. And there is not BPU water in this location. So this would, we are going to include the BPU water main extension in this grant as well, providing those utilities, as well as a sanitary extension on the west side and storm enhancements on both sides.
So then the 4 white polygons that are on the upper side or the west side of the river, those would be considered part of the ultimate development, but would not be covered by this grant, correct?
Right. Yeah. And we'll definitely update the picture for the grant application. But yeah, those like you said, those polygons up there, that is not on land we own, and it's currently not budgeted to do a development there, but it does just open up that the opportunity and the vision for what a development could look like on that side. But we will be providing the utilities for the bridge and for the park space with this grant application.
Very good. Thank you very much. That's all the questions I have.
Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, thank you. I after rereading my email, I am bummed that Indian Springs was removed, but I'm super happy that we get to still pursue this. What I can hear constituents in the public saying is, what about my neighborhood? What about my area? What about these particular issues? Why not, use the grant for that particular project? So can you all speak to, and I know this is in a limited amount of time, and so I want to emphasize that it wasn't as if we had a lot of time to really think through this, but can you all kind of talk through the process of what you considered? Because there are a lot of infrastructure projects that we could have, right? I mean, Indian Springs was one of them, right? That didn't make it, that could have also been proposed. What was the process like of selection? And did we take poverty? Did we take equity? Did we take unemployment? Did we take, census data? Did we use any of those things to really come to the conclusion of these are the projects that we want to invest in? And the only reason why I say that is because I think these areas that are in need, right, throughout our community are the ones that would benefit the most, right, as opposed to the areas that already have, right, a tremendous amount of development.
Absolutely. And this is Erica with iParametrics again, and team, certainly feel free to also jump in here. But we took a quick assessment of those projects that we were aware of that would have the greatest economic benefit and would be the best candidates for this specific grant. Now, our hope is that this is the first series of many, many more grants moving forward, because we understand that there are a lot of infrastructure needs. And we are fortunate that the federal government just approved the federal infrastructure bill that will start to cascade our way. And so what our team is doing also in the background is making sure that we are identifying all of the projects that are available and trying to partner those up with specific infrastructure grants to make sure we're ready to move forward when they're released. So our intent was to try to find those most appropriate projects for the specific grant so that we are a more likely and more attractive candidate for funding with the state.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I did want to, this is Kathleen Von Atchen, and I did want to also point out 2 more points that this grant is specifically geared towards economic development type projects. And secondly, that it really needs to be shovel ready. So they want you to start within 6 months. So.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know about the 6 months part, so that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you. Thank you, staff and Erica for the presentation. I guess staff is looking for direction. For me, I think I'm going to make Commissioner McKiernan very happy. I support us putting Armourdale's the first one as the project because we have a lot of development out west and a lot of improvement, and this area is an area of our community that has seen very little improvement, and I think this will go a long way, especially for our community members who live in that area and the businesses who reside there, and just in general for future development. This will go a long way. So I support us doing Armourdale. With the interchange and the riverfront, I feel that there are, as Erica had just mentioned, with the infrastructure bill that was just passed by Congress, there may be many future opportunities in the future for us to get funding for those other projects. I just believe that it's time for Armourdale to get some TLC and some improvement and some investment. So I guess that would be my opinion and my direction. Thank you.
Commissioner Markley.
Thanks, Mayor. I fear a little bit putting all of I would just say in response to Commissioner Ramirez's recommendation, certainly I support the Armourdale project as well. I fear a little bit putting all of our eggs in one basket, lest the state find some problem with that application or not prefer it for some reason. My preference would be that we apply for both of the projects that we already have the match money in place for. So we do the application for both. We know the match is already covered for both of those 2, and then whichever the state prefers or chooses or thinks is most fundable, at least we have the opportunity if they don't prefer the Armourdale application for some reason. I hate to try to read their minds, but we would at least have that other option on the table. If we only apply for the one and for some reason they turn it down, I would hate to not have the opportunity to get money for another project.
And this is Erica Hopper with iParametrics again. I also failed to mention that you're allowed to put forward 3 applications per organization. So these are the 3 that we identified for KCK.
Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. Good evening, all. Commissioner Townsend, District 1. Just following up on something that Commissioner Markley mentioned, not losing an opportunity. Is there a cutoff date by which we expect to have to submit however many projects we want to put forward? And if so, what is that time?
This is Erica Hupka. That date is February 28th. We have to have everything submitted to the state to include all the supporting documents. So we will be heads down working on this diligently for the next 18 days. Okay.
Well, then I agree with her comments. It's good to have a plan A and B. So we can submit up to 3. You can fund, we know we have the match for the 2. That way no time is lost. So I think that would be a wise move to make. Thank you.
Administrator Harrison Lee, was that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Appreciate the presentations. My support also goes with those developments where we already have the matching funds in place. If staff could answer a question, I just need a little more clarity. I guess I misunderstood, and I apologize. I know Commissioner Davis had brought this up, but how did we get to these three developments as far as that process? And I believe that staff said that we came to this determination. What does we look like? Who is that? And can you be more specific on how we got to the point, or these were the three recommended sites for consideration?
So Mayor, this is Kathleen Von Atchen, the CFO. And so the Friday when we learned about this grant, when it first came out, we quickly met in remotely. That we would be members of the Public Works Director and members of the Public Works team, as well as Catherine Carter from Economic Development, our Urban Planning Director, Gunnar Hand, and myself and the iParametrics team. So there was about 15 of us. And, these staff members know what projects are shovel ready and large and unfunded. And they know how much has been already contributed towards these project areas and which ones, could potentially meet the match. They were aware of the criteria where that it needs to be economic development related. And so a number of projects were thrown into the list. We had about 6. And then we started talking through what were the likely projects that would most likely be funded by the state because they more closely aligned with the criteria of the grant. And and that's how we came upon these 3. And at the time, we weren't certain if the limit of 3 projects was for each entity, with treating Kansas City, Kansas as an entity, or treating Wyandotte County as an entity. But I think later we learned that we can only apply for 3 anyway. But so that's how that worked through. The 3 we aren't moving forward with or showing you. I think actually we presented all 6 to the subcommittee, or was it just 4? I can't remember now. But the 3 that we're not is because we don't have here is because they just the matching requirement is or perhaps the funding from outside sources that would be used as a match we weren't 100% certain of, that we couldn't confirm the amounts. We need to have support letters. They weren't ready, shovel ready, and they didn't as closely align with that economic development approach. And so there was an issue of the project timing and some of that. So anyway, these are the top 3. We also have been talking with the state who is overseeing this grant program, and they've provided us some guidance on, what they feel would be most likely to be awarded. And so that's, of course, we're trying to win the grant. So that's the process. And so we're looking for your direction.
Thank you. And I'm sure that the elected body would like to give you some direction. I think what would help in giving that direction is when we have these processes, that if staff could take into consideration an expectation that the commission may want to be more intimately involved in at least weighing in on some of these development projects that you all are considering. Sharing that information on the front end as opposed to making propositions on the tail end, I think would go a long way in getting the kind of support that you need, as well as the buy-in from the community and our constituents that they've come to expect from their elected body. That's just a recommendation for me. I would ask that our administrator please have staff direct on all of the sites that had been identified, the issues that were presented in regards to why they were disqualified to the elected body. So as we move forward with this initiative, our elected body could have all the information readily available to them, and they can make an informed decision when that time is necessary. But again, my position is I do stand with the majority of the commissioners that express their support for those projects identified that we far exceed the matches in those areas that need really the investment that has been long overdue. With that being said, are there any further comments or questions from our commission?
Commissioner Burrows.
Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would just like to echo some of the comments that have been made this evening in reference to projects and shovel-ready projects. These opportunities are very fleeting, and I have learned a long time ago, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I would encourage us to reach out. We prioritized. I've listened to my fellow colleague. They've made their priorities known as to what we want. We can agree and disagree on that. Bottom line is we must not miss out on an opportunity to fund any of these projects. So I support the opportunity to forward a grant request and see what projects we can fund.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Seeing none, that concludes our special.
Mayor, Commissioner Townsend's raised her hand one more time.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Townsend.
No problem, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Townsend. Just so I'm clear, are we supposed to be weighing in tonight? I'm looking at the dates that were given. Are we saying that this is going to come back to us again for some kind of consensus or direction? Or are we not in a position to do that tonight? I'm just trying to get clear so we don't delay anything. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Kathleen Bonachin, and I would like, we would like to know if the commission wants us to move forward with all three, or just two, and which two, or just one and which one. And then we'll start working because it's due in 18 days.
Right. And so that's why I'm asking, is that you're looking for that tonight or at some later date? Because when I noticed the dates, that's pretty close.
That's right. We would like that tonight, yes. And I'm looking up the information now because that the mayor asked what were the other projects that we considered.
Kathleen and I have that information if that would be helpful. This is Erica.
Okay.
Okay, so the other three projects that we were looking at were revitalization of Indian Springs, trying to make that area more, do some beautification and some basic improvements to the flow of the area, in addition to building a transit center that would have an appropriately sized community space to use there. The next project that was, oh, I apologize. The next project was the Turner Diagonal project. There are still some water issues on the western side of the new interchange that would be helpful to be addressed so that the developer can continue to build over on that side of the diagonal. And the last option was the State Avenue and 115th Street intersection, and doing improvements to that area so that it can again accommodate the growth that's expected out there and incorporates both pedestrian and vehicular traffic safely.
So I think that last, I don't know, that last project she just mentioned, I think that one was decided to not be included because there's an expectation that a developer or a private sector entity is likely to act on that, and we wouldn't need a grant. So it wouldn't really, I think, I don't know, Catherine can probably comment on that. Plus some of the development in that area is still isn't shovel ready. And so that was part of that. The reason we disqualified that one.
two last questions. The Indian Springs, would that have been shovel ready? And the other two, the Armadale and the KCK Riverfront, from what source are those matching funds being derived?
Well, I would like Catherine Carter to answer questions regarding the Indian Springs development, if she's available.
Hello, sorry, I'm trying to get my video. There it is. Hi, Catherine Carter, Director of Economic Development. Yeah, we did and actually presented to the ARPA subcommittee on Tuesday, the Indian Springs. That was one of the finalists. The reason that we opted to not include that one at this point is specifically because of these items that we've mentioned previously. So the question about the match requirement, we have a project that is slated to move forward in that location at this time, and if that were to move forward, we would have the match requirement. That being said, there's some question that we feel like in the next month or so, we will be in a better position to determine if it's that project or we're moving on to a different project in that spot. So kind of that question about the match, and then also the shovel ready. We have had a number of discussions with folks at the ATA about the transit center, as well as with Public Works about what kind of that corridor improvements would be. But at this point, they've all just been kind of theoretical. And so that was a big question in terms of, that needing to get started within 6 months was a big question. Whereas, as we've discussed, these other three are all pretty much ready to go. And with the infusion of the funds, we could get going.
Thank you. Well, it seems like that's the theme, the repetitive theme I hear with these top two as opposed to the others. So I appreciate that. And the last thing, the match for those two are coming from what source?
Sure, this is Erica Hupka with iParametrics. For the Armadale project, when the Army Corps of Engineers project initiated, the UG put forward 1.37 million towards that project. And the federal government put forward 14.2 million towards that project. And so that's where that match is coming from, is the Corps of Engineers investment and the initial UG investment. For the KC Levees project, the UG put forward 3.7 million, and we have 4 million from the Yards 2, I believe, or 4 million from one private developer and 2 million from another private developer that we are able to count with our match there.
Okay, thank you. Seems like time is of the essence. So based on what you've offered, Ms. Bonach, and I would be in support of that Armadale and the riverfront. And the riverfront area, that is by the RIB, the RIB Bridge, that project. Okay.
Rock Island Bridge.
Rock Island Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, and it's connected to Armadale. So on that western side, that is the edge of Armadale and ties into the Armadale master plan.
Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, so during the ARPA subcommittee conversation, there was conversations on bonding some of the money needed to pay for the project instead of using cash. So I know a lot of things have changed since Tuesday. So I'd like some update on exactly how are we going to get that money. The other question that I had was, are these projects that are shovel ready, are they shovel ready because they were in the CMIP and we are already going to pay for it? Or I guess what's the relationship between the shovel ready projects and our capital maintenance and improvement plan?
Well, I'm going to let Public Works answer the last part of that question. But the first part is if you all decided to go forward with the third project or all three, but the first two aren't requiring any UG match dollars. So the third one is the one that would require a commitment from the UG of or so million dollars. So, you got three options. I don't, probably four, who knows, but the three I can think of is, first off, you identify an available cash source that's unobligated, and so that would be, in my mind, available reserves that are sitting in our fund balance, or unallocated ARPA revenue replacement funds that we've identified there's going to be some of that unallocated ARPA revenue replacement money sitting in the city general fund. The second approach would be to get another federal grant, but we don't know of any other federal grants that we already have that we're waiting to spend money on that are not committed already. And we would need to know that in order to apply for the grant in the next 18 days. So, and then the third option would be to issue GO revenue bonds, or GO bonds, general obligation bonds. So if you were assuming a 2% interest rate, to borrow the $5 million, we'd have to pay 2% interest on that. But you got to consider that we're leveraging 25 million. So if you were to do the math, the effective interest rate wouldn't, instead of being 2%, it'd be 0.2%. So it's really very cost effective to issue bonds to support a match of $25 million. So it's that is actually a very prudent approach to take if we don't have the funds available, because otherwise we wouldn't get that $25 million. So those are your options. Now, what was the question again about Public Works that we were gonna?
Just the relationship between the projects that were chosen in the CMIP.
Right. So Public Works answer that question.
Or if I could, please, this is Erica Hupka with Parametrics again. We reached out to our team out at Public Works to help us organize this with relevance to the CMIP. And unfortunately, the way that system is built, it's for existing infrastructure and existing buildings and trying to rank them that way. So there was a bit of a challenge trying to come up with new development and how to factor that into the program. So saying, the Armourdale project ranked 8th on the CMIP with the other projects that are currently ongoing. And the other two projects were very near to there, but that was the highest ranking one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I believe that probably need Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment. First of all, I support projects 1 and 2, both in Armourdale. And I have an appreciation for the leveraging of the potential 25 million at State Avenue and Village West Parkway. I truly do. But, my infrastructure committee that includes Commissioner Townsend, Commissioner McKiernan, and Commissioner Stites, we've been meeting regularly since August. And one of the impacts of those meetings is the overwhelming public infrastructure needs this community has, that most of which have no identifiable source of revenue. And because of that experience that we've had all these many months now, it is very hard for me to contemplate a $5 million investment of our local cash, bonding, whatever, into that intersection when we all took an infrastructure tour last fall that identified a dozen projects, all of which were immediate, some of which had multi-million-dollar price tags. And I'm throwing that out for the rest of the commission to weigh in on. And I, again, have a true respect for the leveraging. But for that reason, it's hard for me to support that third project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Going one more time, any other comments or questions from our commission? Seeing none, I believe it.
Commissioner Davis.
Sorry, just one more question. Our vote or recommendation on this is not necessarily also a recommendation on how it would get funded. I guess we are getting a consensus that the project out west is probably not going to make it. I'm also for the Armourdale and the KCK Riverfront. But I guess I'm just trying to make sure here, right? Are we just saying yes to the projects? Or are we also saying yes to the potential funding? Are we making a decision on the funding? Or is that even worth a discussion given there may be some consensus? I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place here.
Well, in the grant application, we would have to explain how we're going to come up with the match if we haven't met it. And so in doing so, by making those statements, we're affirmatively, stating we're going to. They're not requiring a resolution necessarily from you all, but if we did end up getting that third grant, and we didn't have some sort of, action by the commission, and then later you all decide, changed your mind and didn't approve it, the grant match, I'm not sure that'd be a good move. So we do have a resolution in play on hand, just in case you all decide to move forward with one of the grant where we haven't met the match, so that we can have some sort of formal action to support that match requirement when we submit the application. But we didn't forward it to you at this time because we just wanted to hear the conversation from all of you on how to go forward. And Commissioner Bynum mentioned the bonding capacity. So as you know, our general guiding rule is to not issue or not undertake or approve more than $15 or $16 million worth of general governmental debt for streets and roads, the governmental, not the sewer storm, but the governmental portion. We kind of limiting it every year to about 15 million in debt funded projects. So if we were to decide to do this third project, that 5 million would eat into it. So she's right about that. And that there is, given the current mill rate structure, we could afford to exceed that 15 million a year, but generally we're trying to keep our debt low. So, so anyway, I'm just saying, so.
Thank you for making that clarification. That is very important on the decision that we make. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from our commissioners? All right, as a matter of order, just so there's clarity to staff on the direction they can take in regards to this application, I'm going to move the clerk for a straw poll. And the first order would be to assess the feelings of the commissioners in favor of the two recommendations that have the matching funds in place. And I'm going to ask the clerk to start with the roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Roll call. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Yes.
Burrough.
Yes.
Townsend.
Yes.
McKiernan.
Yes.
Ramirez.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, I'm fine with it.
Kane.
Yes.
Markley.
Yes.
Stites.
Yes.
Thank you. The next straw poll matter will be, I will ask the clerk to give a roll call to the commission for consideration on their position for the item that was brought forward for recommendation as part of this grant process, to where there was no matching funds associated with that. And I believe that was the the Village West interchange project. Clerk, if you could go with that, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Roll call, Davis,
No.
Bynum,
No.
Burrows. Burrows, one more time.
I'm sorry. I don't know if I really understood the motion. I want to I'd like to have some clarity if I may.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is a straw poll just to see the position of the commissioners, where they stood on their position on including in the grant application for consideration the recommendation for consideration that you all may have as far as your position with the Village West project that didn't have the matching funds. And so a straw poll is being taken in that regard.
Gotcha, Mayor. Thank you. I appreciate that. At this time, I'm a no.
Townsend,
No, not at this time in these circumstances, no.
McKiernan,
No.
Ramirez,
No.
Johnson,
No.
Kane.
I'd like to say yes, but I don't think we can do it at this time.
Is that a no?
Yes.
Markley,
No.
Stites.
No.
Thank you. That concludes our special session. We are adjourned. We'll reconvene at 7 p.m. for our full commission meeting. Thank you.